everybody. Hi.
Hello.
My name is Alan, and on behalf of Wistancia, my co-host, and the crew of the show and the staff of KCTV, we'd like to welcome you all to another show of Bridging Heaven and Earth. Again, we have a really interesting and informative and really powerful show tonight. We have Julianne Everett on the show, who's been a spiritual teacher and facilitator and workshop leader, just an incredible helper for spiritual growth for people. And she's going to be here, and she has some incredible things to tell us and pictures to show us and just to share a lot with us. So we're really excited about that. And I also would like to start the show by thanking all the people who called about the last few shows we've had. And actually, we got a special call from a young woman. She called a few times. A young woman named Jamie, and she asked specifically if we could show. She likes the music behind the show, the soundtrack by Michael Hammer. So she asked if we could show a short clip of his that. Of the waterfall that we showed on the first show when he was the guest. So we're going to show a little of that tonight. So it should be really a powerful show, and we hope you all enjoy it. So as we normally do at this time, we have Wistancia leading us all in an invocation and a short meditation, and then a lot of things are going to happen. So we hope you enjoy it. Wistancia?
Thank you. And so we come before Father, Mother God. We come as daughters of God, as sons of God. We come as the children. And we come and request a blessing this night. We request the blessing of love to pour through us, of the open heart. Let this be an invocation to the open heart, that the Christed energies can come and flow through us and open our heart to all that we have ever been, to all that we are becoming, and all that we are in this present moment. And we call forth now to the beloved ascended masters who work with us, who work with mankind, who love the earth, to our special guides and all those who overlight us, and we ask to be overlit this night by the ascended masters who wish and will be here with us. We call forth to Lord Sananda, Jesus the Christ, and ask that he overlight us and open our hearts, he who is known as the Heart Master. We call forth to Mary for compassion and openness. We call to Kuan Yin and ask that all healing that can take place this night, in this hour, that it take place now. We also call forth to the archangels, asking to be overlit by their great beings, by all the light of the higher realms and all the divine beings. We ask now to open to the ascension energies, to the energies of transformation, of preparation for this wonderful, exciting time that we are living in. We ask to feel in our hearts the descent of light into matter, and in our hearts to feel the ascent of matter into light, that maybe both currents can be felt on the spot tonight as we sit here, as we open to the teachings, to some of the new teachings of the Ascended Masters. Let us just sit here as children. I ask now to be in the feeling of forgiveness. May we each forgive ourselves and all others for every lifetime, every feeling that needs to be forgiven, every person. Let the flame of forgiveness, the violet flame of transmutation, flow through us and change us now, just by our love, by our intention. May we move into harmlessness. May we learn to love all those whom we don't understand as much as we love our radiant selves. And I also call forth now to our I Am presences, that great presence of God that is who we are in the truest sense, and our Christed selves, so that we can begin to see truly that we are magnificent, divine human beings, living on the earth as we live in heaven. For we are much greater than we think. So please let us all just together link heart to heart and soul to soul. Link with whoever's in your home, whoever's in the studio, and if you are alone, link with an angel or your favorite master or your pet or whoever. Link your heart now with each other. Let us move, as the dolphins say to move, in formation together, and link and move into our hearts and send our light down into the earth and ask to receive the light back. Send our light up into the heavens and ask to receive the experience of the light coming from the heavens into us as we move into silence together. Thank you. I'm really excited about tonight. I'm excited because I have read Julianne's book, I've spoken to her, I've met her, and she has a lot that I know that being in her presence I can learn. I feel like it's a gift to have her with us tonight. And so we have to move along because we have so much to say and so much to listen to. First we'll see a short clip of Water Dance, Michael Hammer, the man who behind the soundtrack of this show. So maybe we can just move into that clip, and when we come back we'll have Julianne Everett with us on the set. Whenever you're ready, here we go. Thank you, Michael Hammer. I'll have to send this one out to you. So here's Julianne. Julianne's with me. She's not on the camera right now, but she is sitting here with me. And I would like to ask you, first off, there was this one little quote in the book that I read. Now, she wrote a book called Heart Initiation, and it's The Challenges of Conscious Ascension, and we'll get into ascension in a minute. but you had this one quote. It's something like, when you first woke up. I don't remember how it goes exactly, but like, where have I been all of my life, or something
kind of
like
thing.
that.
You'll wonder where you've
that.
been all your life.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Maybe,
that's really true.
maybe we can talk about a little bit about like your beginning with that, and what, you know, how that triggered, when you actually woke up and thought, you know, who am I, what am I doing? I know that for you it was in the 60s, wasn't it?
Yes, it wasn't exactly that I had a feeling of who am I and what am I doing here. It wasn't like that, actually. My husband was out of town for 10 days. I was a housewife. I led a very ordinary life with a couple little children, relatively happy. And when he was out of town, it was like someone took the top of my head off. And I suddenly was not even living in this world. I was seeing into the Akasha, which are the living records around the planet. I was seeing flashes of the past and the future. I really didn't know whether it was
And you
past
don't
or
even know what the
future.
trigger was, just
No
just that he
trigger.
was out of town, though.
Just that he was out of town. And that's a funny thing, because it must relate somehow to the energy. I had
Right.
to be alone at
Right,
the time, and I
uh-huh.
never really have quite
But all of a
understood that.
sudden, the top of your head was off.
Yeah, all of a sudden. I was living in other dimensions. Then I was aware of a presence, and that presence introduced himself to me as the Christ and as Mary. And they would go back and forth. And I wasn't particularly religious, so nothing led to this either spiritually, religiously, or metaphysically. But I
So you
began
weren't
to
involved in any spiritual path?
No.
You didn't, a lot of people in the 60s did drugs as an awakening kind of thing?
No,
Well, one
nothing.
way or another. But you
She didn't do drugs.
didn't, anything
No.
like that? No, you
No.
couldn't see any trigger that you could...
No, that I could
Yeah,
put
that's
my
interesting.
finger
That's
on at all.
amazing.
Were you
Yeah.
meditating? Did you? You
Nothing.
weren't even meditating? Oh, wow, you
Nothing.
were
Just-
My
targeted.
sister was into metaphysics for 5
I've
years.
been doing too much. That's no.
And I remember calling my sister up and saying, "Are you praying for me? Are you doing something special? Because I'm not the same person." And I would be up almost all night long. I would communicate with my children in a completely different way. I wasn't a mother. I became like a soul or a spirit or something, and I would communicate with them as though we were just all living in this glorious place. It was very heavenly, but it was also got to be very scary for me, because I realized I'm
Right.
not living in the same reality anymore that other people are.
Wow.
So
Right.
I actually began to ask
When your
to go
husband
see.
called during this period, what'd you say? Something's weird in this.
I don't remember that, to tell you the truth. I think that I just cooled it for a while. I don't believe that,
That
I
you
really
came right out with
came
it,
right out.
that the top of my head is off, and what do I do about it? Right.
Yeah, when he got home, actually, he was
Right.
very concerned, so I was
Right.
glad that I didn't upset his business
Right.
trip.
right.
Julianne, was this when you had in your book what you called the anointing light? Did it happen during this time?
The anointing came a little later, and it started in the middle of a dream. I didn't know it was the anointing at the time. All I saw was the sun was rising, and all of a sudden it got so bright that I said, I have to come out of this dream, because it's really blinding me. And when I opened my eyes, there was this huge ball of light in the room, and it began to vibrate and pulse and then start coming towards me. And it took me years to find out that was actually my soul and the light of my own being that was coming into this body. When it started to enter the flesh body, I began to turn into just light. I could not see any more flesh. And just in my innocence, I went, oh my God, I am the light, I am the light. I wasn't trying to be,
Right.
spiritual or say anything. It was just
You
an
were the
incredible
light.
experience.
Right. I mean,
But
that was just the experience of it.
Yes.
Period. No
Period.
philosophy. No, nothing.
No,
Just
no.
I am the light.
Did someone tell
And the body
you what
began
it
to
was?
disappear into light, and I saw the possibility of that. Since then, that turning into light has happened actually several times, and one time my husband got to see that.
He actually saw it.
He saw me disappear. He didn't see me turn into the brilliant light, but he saw me disappear. I said, I can feel that it's happening. I said, come in. I don't know why we do it this way, but I said, come in and look in the mirror. So instead of looking at me directly, we both look in the mirror, and then he saw me disappear. That's happened
How long were you
several times,
gone?
really. I don't know. I didn't time it. You're in a
I
completely
mean, did
different
he
state of
say that you were
consciousness.
gone, like a certain...
Probably
and then
just seconds or minutes. I don't know.
Seconds,
That's hard to know.
Do you remember what was
So
going
he was
on?
prepared for this by this time? For you doing things that most people in the store don't do? Or
Well, first of all, I've been married for 15 years to the husband that I'm with now. The other husband is no longer on the planet, and he was not ever prepared for it.
Never
No, that was
prepared.
very hard for
Right,
him.
yeah, I'll bet. It's a difficult thing.
And that shifted our relationship really, and eventually dissolved it, because the spiritual stuff was just too threatening to
Too
our
powerful, yeah.
to our life, really. I remember going with him on a business trip to Bermuda and having to talk to people in an international conference, and at the same time receiving all this stuff about Atlantis and what went on, and the Akasha was very
So it's
strong
hard to keep on a
in
regular
Bermuda.
business conversation like the dutiful wife, right?
Yes.
It's
yeah.
very different.
It was real hard. I was split in half a
Right,
lot.
right.
Amazing. So talk a little bit about, like in your book, you were talking about how the 60s, how you felt like the 60s was a spiritual revolution.
Yes.
And then you took it in the book. It was really fascinating, and I agree with it. It's my experience too. How you, the Christ, what you call the Christ process. Could
Yes.
you talk a little bit about that?
All right. In the 60s, now this is only in looking back, I feel that that was the beginning of a spiritual revolution or a reformation and a movement of the Christ, which is what he's told me since then, of the Christ to imprint the Christ consciousness into a large number of humanity. Many years later, in 1986, there's the experience then of going to Israel, which I'll get into later, but that's where I really got to see that the Christ was going to start overlighting groups of people. And it's interesting because it was shown to me that it would be groups as well as individuals, and the people coming together and beaming in the Christ consciousness was very, very important. In the 60s,
And the Christ consciousness is like the consciousness of oneness, of experiences of love. I mean,
Yes.
how would you define it for people
Well,
who are not
it's-
as familiar?
It's probably really saying that we move all the energy that's basically been centered at the solar plexus, which is in reactivity and survival, and just these concerns of the ego, moving all that up into unconditional love, which is the center called a chakra in the heart. And moving all the attention there. So it's shifting the whole fulcrum of our being. It's like we're actually going to start feeling like we don't have a base for a while as the movement goes. Now I say we, I can't really speak for we. I can only say that I went through the experience. Everybody's moving in at different times. A whole group of people went through in the 60s. A very large number
like
of people
a door
started to
opened
open up.
for a while, and the door seemed to close. And
Then a whole other
Right.
group opened up in the 70s and the
Right,
80s, and
right.
some are just coming into it now. So I see that as just a progressive process as we go along. Is that enough on the 60s?
Talk a little bit, about the 60s, but moving on to the Christ process and the crucifixion and the resurrection as experienced by us,
Okay.
not as by Jesus,
All
because I
right.
think that's really fascinating.
All right. As we move through the anointing by light, which is the awakening, which is saying basically, I'm not just a human being. I'm connected to a whole body of intelligence. Let's say the Christ intelligence. I'm connected to the universe, actually. I'm connected to the cosmos. At that point, there's a series of transformations that go on in the body and around the body that begin to take us through what is the crucifixion, which is the releasing, really, the dissolving and the dissolution of that which is no longer serving us. So it's a kind of a death, but I hate to use that word. It's just a letting go of all that is not in harmony with the Christ vibration, which is not just something that's coming to me. This is written about in Hopi prophecies. This is written about, scientists are talking about the coming in of the photon belt, some things which we'll get into in a little while if you'd like to. But basically, the crucifixion is the letting go of the old and the past and the play of the ego. And the egos had to have a play in order to survive, in order to make it this far in the world. There had to be a kind of a separation, and that's part of the mastery of this planet, to go through separation, to go through actually negativity, and to master negativity, and to come on top of it, and to realize that we have a dominion in this world. It's a very interesting planet to choose to be incarnated on. So then the next level is basically the resurrection, which means you start lifting the energy fields in the body into a new vibration. So that's after the crucifixion and the resurrection are actually kind of a simultaneous process.
Right.
One's a releasing, one's a bringing in of the new. Emptying out, bringing in the new. Now, after witnessing this for 30 years, I see that it's a continual, ongoing process, and it may never end as long as we're on the earth plane, as far as I know. It could be that each incarnation we simply leave at a higher level than we did the one before. There seem to be an awful lot of people who are now concentrating on the ascension. The ascension is, to me, just a shifting into one's higher consciousness. Once you reach a state of the ascended consciousness, I suspect that it doesn't make any difference whether you're on Earth or whether you're on Venus or whether you're on the star system of Sirius, because you're living in pure consciousness. But even that goes on and on and on. There's cosmic consciousness, which is a little different than just Christ consciousness. It's a higher level. If you imagine the soul as a singular point of divine intelligence, imagine the experiences of the soul escalating on and on. This might be a good time to actually show the presence while I'm talking about this.
No, they're talking to the director. The camera people talking to the director. So we're going to line that up for Julianne.
Yeah, if we can line that up, then it's probably easier to talk about.
The big one.
Lift.
This is a huge print in the studio here.
Yeah, there's a print that Julianne brought with her that she wants to illustrate now.
I'll keep talking about it.
Yeah, as soon as they'll pull it
up
up at any minute. Yeah.
What it's going to show, a state of Christ consciousness, a state of living in harmony with an aspect of the self that's commonly referred to as the monad or the I am presence. The I am presence has around it spheres of intelligence. The ascension is the process of moving collectively into these spheres. So as I say, you start at a singular point of light and you keep expanding into these other levels of the self. Each of these spheres, which you'll show, of divine intelligence are different, like different waves or frequency wave bands. And they're represented by colors because they actually do emanate a frequency that relates to a color and a sound. All of the energy around the I am presence as the causal body is with us all the time, but we're asleep to it. So we live in a third-dimensional reality that basically encompasses the astral, which is the closest body in. It's the emotional body. And when people are taking pictures of the aura, for example, with Kirlian photography, they're getting just little glimpses of the astral body generally, maybe a little bit of the higher bodies. But this picture shows you a sense of the I am presence at the top, and you'll see that there's a shaft of light coming from the presence into the being below, which represents the human initiate or the human incarnate soul. So that shaft of light has been coming in through the crown chakra, which is a specific place in the top of the head, and that is activating, first of all, a place called the Holy of Holies in the center of the head in the crown chakra that's made up by a collective field of intelligence that is kind of a triad of energy between the pineal, the pituitary gland, and the hypothalamus. That particular spot, though, and that focus of a divine intelligence is now dropping into the heart. So it's coming down into the heart of the incarnate soul. And that's what's initiating the heart into what some are calling the solar Christ initiation, and what the even the Mayans refer to Christ consciousness. And so that Christ consciousness is now entering the heart. When that happens, instead of visualizing the presence way out there above the head, and it's 12 to 50 feet high, that presence is now descending around the physical body, and it's vibrating the aura of the incarnate soul. As it's vibrating the aura of the incarnate soul, it's actually shaking free the dross on the cellular molecular body, as well as spinning free the dross that's around the chakras.
Dross meaning the negativity? Or
accumulation of sort of misqualified thoughts and feelings, limited thoughts, all the things that each of us experience daily.
Can you see that in other people? Can you see that
happen? I can
happen?
see chakras, but I close my eyes. I go into another level of consciousness. I can't look into your body right now, but if I close my eyes and ask to see your chakras with your permission, then we could go in and see the energy of the chakras.
I'm afraid of doing it on television. Oh my God.
And anyone can just call forth, like in the invocation.
Yes.
It can call the presence.
Absolutely.
To come closer. I mean, it's there. I always picture it almost like a big mushrooming kind of energy that's huge, just huge. It's like each of our God presences, and it's linked with all the other I am presences. It feels like it's linked. It's not like a real separate thing, and that we can call it in to become more familiar. Yeah. We can actually, reach up to it, kind of like that, And
it's
I do
vital.
that. Yeah.
It's really vital if we're going to make this shift successfully into the next frequency or the next dimension or the next wave band of energy. We have to call the presence in and actually ask the presence. We'll have to is a big word. It's beneficial to bring the presence in and ask it to activate your body and actually take charge of your being, world, and affairs. And once you call the presence in, the call compels the answer. It will actually then begin to do that.
And does the presence have a name? And when do you call?
Called by the name, no, it's beloved mighty I am presence.
The I am presence.
I am presence, because the I am carries the frequency of the I am, so it doesn't need a name. Actually, we have a state of being that's beyond the I am, but the I am is the individualized God state of being. Then you would go out into the void, and that's a whole other subject. But once you say I am, then you accept individualization as an intelligence and a being of pure love and light. The first time that I got to see the presence, besides a ball of light, actually see it have any kind of form, I was taken actually out of Marin County off of a mountain, and a group of beings, I was lying on the ground, a group of beings were standing around me, and they said, would you come with us? And I really hesitated because I couldn't see them that well, and I go, is this an abduction or what?
Right. Am I going to end up on a rocket ship somewhere? I'm not sure of that, right?
Really, and I was worried. So I waited, and I felt the energy, and I said, yes, I'll go.
It felt healing or loving.
It felt loving.
Loving enough for you to proceed.
Yes,
right.
For me to proceed.
Right.
Now, the first thing that happened, though, was really relatively frightening because I went into a compressed state. I felt like I was becoming the weight of the earth. I got so heavy that it was like someone had a huge hand on me and they were shoving me into the earth, which is very interesting because they say when we're going through the photon belt, we're going to speed up and go through such a change of velocity, the whole planet, that we'll feel very compressed, like we're going on the old
when
pictures.
I'm meditating, sometimes I almost feel like that. You know, that kind of compression.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah.
So the compression was tremendous, and then all of a sudden there was a pop, like a rubber band snapping, and then I knew I was in a completely different body. And I still could not see very well, except that I saw that I was in a crystalline field of energy, and that my chakras were being aligned somehow by this crystalline field. And at a certain point, the being said, now she's ready, stand up. So I got up from a reclining position, and what I saw was just absolutely so gorgeous, so magnificent. The beings all looked alike. They were all running opalescent energy. They were just living love. And if it had been one, I would think that I was really meeting God. But because there were several, I said, oh my God. I fell to the ground.
I'm in a good club here.
Yeah. I fell to the floor in a heap of tears, and they said something kind of interesting. They said, if you cry too hard, you'll go into your emotional body, your astral body.
It'll bring you down almost.
Yes, you'll actually go back into your body. We need to have you now
more
stand
in
up.
control, in a sense.
And they beamed in with prismatic rays of light. They beamed in out of their forehead, and they went chakra by chakra. That's when I understood more about chakras, because there was a whole block of energy that came in then. So they went chakra by chakra. It's a good time.
So when you say you've been taught by masters and by divine beings, I mean, you really were taught, like, physically in their presence. It means a lot to me when you say, you know, I was trained, you know, and they go, well, what do you mean by trained, you know? And like, I feel like you really were trained, weren't you? Maybe you could.
I don't see them all the time.
Train us a little bit about
that clear. I don't see them all the time.
Right.
That's a very special occurrence, but speaking with them, that's different.
Okay, I'm sorry. But you get the information that you can handle for a while, and you could pass out, and then you get more information. And
it drops in a whole block. This is true.
And then it almost takes you a while to
assimilate
it.
Yes, and it unfolds.
Right.
Now, when they really appear, they usually appear in bodies of flame or a living light. Only occasionally do I ever see them with what would be called hair eyes or things like that. They're usually just a body of living light and intelligence, and it just shakes me up, and I go into a real high state of love. That's the first thing. Then the energy starts pouring in. But in between time, I mean almost all the time, the information's coming in, but not always in their presence. So that's what I just want to make that clear.
When it comes in, how does it come in, would you say?
I just go and become a receiving station. I just know when it's coming. We have our ordinary thoughts day in and day out, and then all of a sudden it's boom, it's like a radio station comes in. And I start receiving information that I just know I'm to pass on.
And is there a trigger for that? Is it more apt when you're meditating and more apt when you're walking in the woods, or could it be when you're cooking dinner? Or
it can be any time.
Anytime. It doesn't seem to be.
It can be when they want to give you this, it sounds like, not necessarily when you're...
But you can call them forth, and you can ask for these, I don't get it so much from my personal self. I usually get it when I'm working in a group energy, or I'm to write something or to do something. They don't just kind of give it to you for your entertainment. I found that a lot. Or if I'm working with somebody in a private consultation, then it'll come in and we form a collective body, really a council of light. I don't work with just one master, but I did at the beginning. But now it's a whole group field. And
just like they gave you some information for tonight, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's special.
Yeah.
Really.
But you all have that connection, because that connection, like you say, is through your I Am Presence. You call in your I Am Presence. Your I Am Presence already works in councils of the Christ light, possibly even councils of the cosmic Christ light, which means that you get information more on what's going on in our galaxy, related to other universes, related to the cosmos. Most people are just handling clearing up their emotional body and learning how to think properly. But while that's going on, you are already, all of you, working in collective fields of intelligence in other bodies all the time. We're not just these singular. This is kind of the most asleep, most dense aspect of us. We have all these other bodies.
We try to have that on the show every week. We bring that. No.
Do you want to show the chakra chart and maybe talk about the 12 chakras?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Yeah, we should, get that set up. Yeah, you can start talking about it. They'll set it up.
All right.
Yeah.
The chakras have been up to now. First of all, a chakra in Hindu, Hindi, I always thought Hindi means a wheel of spinning energy. So a chakra is basically like a control center that's in the subtle body. The chakra is the first receiver of prana. Now, prana is not just light floating around in the heavens. Prana is very specific God light that stays qualified as light all the time. It comes to the chakras, and the chakras act as kind of a filtering station for disseminating that energy through the rest of the body. It first goes into nadis, which are etheric nerve channels in the body, which then transfer that information into the central nervous system, and then into the endocrine system, then into the glands, and then into the blood. And so it's coming through, always through these chakras from the divine. The chakras then qualify the energy. Thank you. So here you see the chart, and you will see basically all but one chakra, which is at the bottom, beneath that silvery chakra at the bottom, which is really opalescence. There's one more chakra, which is the root chakra. The root chakra used to always be, in the old system, red, and we dealt with 7 chakras. There were red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, or violet and indigo. Indigo and violet. I don't work with the old chakra system. I think it's indigo and violet. Now, in order for us to shift into the new system of intelligence and into the Christ consciousness, these old colors have to necessarily change, because the consciousness changes according to frequency, and frequency is color and sound. So what used to be red energy at the base chakra is now shifting into the energy of white fire, which means that every chakra that's ascending through the body, all the energy that's ascending up from the earth through the body, is qualified with the ray of purification. So each chakra is now receiving as well, not the intensity of the red, which the old Kundalini, if you've ever heard that expression, which is a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, it was red, and it was really represented intense energy that's been in a state of denial and rest, for good reason. So it's been resting. Most of the people that have Kundalini experiences go through very difficult times, psychologically, mentally, physically. So through the grace of God and the grace of the Mother, is a very important force in this, in birthing us into the Christ consciousness, that energy shifted to white. So that makes a lot of difference right there. So the energy that's rising
more
to
soothing in a sense.
More soothing.
Easier.
Much quieter. Much quieter. The red is moved up to mix with an energy in the solar plexus, and the red is mixed with gold. Can we go back to the chakras? Or is that...
No, we can go back. We'll
too difficult,
yeah. No, there it is.
While I'm talking about it, it's better to just show it, I think, because it'll help. First of all, just the old system was red at the bottom, then skip one and go to the second one, which is violet. That's the one that used to be orange. The one that looks orange is really ruby gold. That was the one that was yellow. The one above the yellow is the old heart flame, which was green. The one above the bright pink was the blue, and that's always remained the same. The one above the aqua was the indigo in the brow chakra, the middle of the head, and the one above that is the crown chakra. And the one at the very top is the 13th ray, which is the diamond light of the I Am Presence. And that's really not just in the aura, that's around the whole body. I mean, it's not just really right above the head, that's all over. So that hasn't taken a place in the body.
Right.
So each of these chakras, through the grace, as I say, of the Mother, really specifically, the old chakras are now receiving 5 new impulses of light, and these are the descending chakras, and they're coming in between the old ones, and they're spinning the dross off the old chakras.
Is that like an evolution of the human species, would you say?
Yes.
As part of the evolution of the human species?
To move into a 12-strand DNA, to move into the 12 solar meridians in the body, to move into the 12 light bodies of consciousness, we have to have a 12-fold chakra system. So this was inevitable for these times. But we've been kept basically at kind of idling at 7 chakras and a 2-strand DNA, waiting for these times.
That's a good way to say it.
Right. Actually, maybe you wanted to lead us all in a meditative journey. I mean, maybe we could start that, because I know the hour's going really fast for everybody.
I can't believe it's going so fast. It's
there's just so much information coming out.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really incredible. So why don't you just lead us on what you want to lead us on, and hopefully everybody can stay with you. I guess if I can, a lot of people.
This is not really just a meditative journey, which I expected it to be, but what I've been asked to do by the Masters is just to really do a little bit of both. This will be partly a teaching and partly an invocation and partly a meditative journey. Okay. So it's a combination. Okay. We're going to show the clip.
It will come on.
It will come on? Well,
yeah.
You're going to have to.
Here it comes.
All right. Now, Estancia has already done a beautiful job of calling in the Masters, but I would like to just quickly do that one more time by saying, Beloved Mighty I Am Presence, great host of ascended Masters and all great beings, powers, and legions of the Christ light, including the beloved archangels, the Elohim, and all of their celestial hosts, I would like to call forth the guardian angel or angels of all those watching, as well as one known as the body elemental. The body elemental is like a deva, like an angel who just has one specific function in your life, and that is to watch over the intelligence of your body. And this deva, or body elemental, has been with you supposedly since your very first incarnation, as has your guardian angel. So I want to ask those two to stand on either side of you, if it is in accordance with your will. And these beings are really quite familiar to your energy field, so you're not going to be disrupted by them in any way. They're already around you all the time. Humanity is quickly learning that this precious planet is truly a field of dreams, a place where we come to learn how to manifest our desires using thought and feeling as the sacred fuel that we need for igniting ourselves into action on the physical plane. Although this beloved earth appears to be a heaven to some, it is always functioning as a wondrous school. It is sometimes a hell to others, but needless to say, it is always a school, a grammar school to some, a high school to others, and a college or graduate school for those who are here to receive their higher degrees of mastery. We each have a specific curriculum for soul advancement, and it is individualized and multi-leveled according to the development of one's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual vehicles. For thousands and thousands of years, the people of this planet have existed in exile from the rest of creation, separate from their true heritage as the sons and daughters of God. Many have forgotten that their ancestry might even include a few relatives from other stars and planets. We speak of God and the Holy Spirit with our minds, but for eons of time we have not felt the truth of this in our emotional or our physical bodies. According to Eastern teachings, we have been in the Kali Yuga, or the darkest of ages, for almost 26,000 years. To survive during this period of spiritual darkness, we became struggling separate egos, and our minds became our mentors. As we awaken, we are remembering that we are not, and cannot possibly be, separate from Source or from each other. This is at once a powerful and a frightening revelation. For the lower ego knows that it will not survive in an enlightened world. The ego is making a last effort to control the soul, but day by day the soul is actually unveiling the truth of the spiritual self. Many, many beings have volunteered to incarnate during these transformational times in order to awaken us all into a greater frequency of love and wisdom. Although we do indeed come here to fulfill our relationship dreams and to manifest our desires, we also come here for accelerating our soul growth. The Hopi prophecies state that at this particular time in our evolution, we must completely align our souls with the Christ consciousness and with the Great Spirit, or else we will have to experience intense personal and planetary purification by fire. Our conscious thoughts and our spoken words are the most powerful ways we have of exercising our divine gift of free will. Over the years, we have created an accumulative strata of unconscious thought. It often acts as a magnetic force field for attracting or amplifying the negative conditions of our world. Until this area of the collective self is understood, cleared, and cleansed, humankind will keep wondering why certain countries or groups of beings appear to be victims of outside circumstances. Truly, there are no victims that are not born out of the conscious or unconscious projections of the people involved. We have the power to heal and to release what is no longer worth supporting. We have the power and the love to preserve only what is serving our highest calling and to co-create what we deeply feel and know to be our divine heritage. To grow spiritually requires a deep-seated willingness and a strong commitment to see everyone as a part of the exquisite whole expression of God in form. Living from and as the essence of divine love is what will heal the despair, destruction, and fear-based belief systems of the third-dimensional world. Erase right now any sense you may harbor in the secret recesses of your being that says you are meant to be less than your fully perfected self. Erase any sense you may harbor that has you believe that you cannot believe the thoughts that will collectively lift you into higher and higher states of ongoing consciousness. Most of us have not experienced living on this planet as joy-filled, self-realized beings. And even though many metaphysicians believe that this planet has already moved into the fourth dimension, this is not most people's reality. You will know when you begin shifting into the fourth dimension, when you begin to witness everything and everyone as simply energy, vibration, and consciousness. You will now come out and open your eyes and allow yourself to feel a full embrace of the I Am Presence which you've seen pictured, and feel that I Am Presence anchoring itself into the heart, and that will stimulate the imprint of a divine being which has actually been seen inside of your heart and photographed by a doctor. And this photograph is supposed to be on file at Oxford University. And it was a flame that was found in the fifth chamber of an airtight cell in the heart. And it was magnified, I think, 3,000 to 10,000 times. And when it was magnified, they saw inside of that flame a divine being. And that divine being is like the microcosm of the Christ that is seated within every heart of every man, woman, and child. So that's not an exclusive thing. Everyone has a soul and this full potential to be awakened. And the Christ is really a term that means literally the anointed one. Now I've read that. I've never really looked it up in any kind of a dictionary, but I've read that that's what it means. So these are very, very special times.
Yes, they are. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
I felt an absolutely huge presence above me, and I know that it was me. You know, it's like I didn't feel separate from it.
Yes.
You know, it's something that I've been feeling for a while. And,
yes.
You know, I wanted to ask you a question now that you're here. And actually, last night I walked into the bathroom, and it was in the middle of the night, and I I didn't turn the light on because as my hand was just about to turn the switch,
Yes.
I saw one of those balls of light. And I've seen this. I've had this experience. I haven't had the experience you talked about of being transported and like that, but the whole bathroom lit up and it was circular. And I went, oh, okay. And I don't need to turn the light on. I also didn't need to go to the bathroom. It was like I just stood there transfixed and just drawn into this beautiful, beautiful light.
Oh, interesting that you'd have that last night.
I did. I thought it was. It was like, wow, you know, Julianne's coming tomorrow night, and I'm having an anointing experience, and it was just like that. It was like dripping light, you know, and it was just. It looked like it was about a foot or two away from me, but I couldn't tell perception anymore.
Well, your eyes probably picked that up, but it goes out. Actually, it goes on and on and out, just like a radio wave or something, where it's intense in the middle and then it just goes out and out and out. But we generally cannot see past the fourth dimension, and we're just developing what I'd say fifth dimensional sight and then sixth dimensional sight. And as literally the eyes are having to adjust to these new frequencies. One of the ways they're doing that, I'm told that there's etheric healing teams that are reconnecting the brainstem and the medulla oblongata, where the nerves come through the base of the skull here. They're reconnecting that back into the Holy of Holies in the center of the skull, that space I told you about. And they're reconnecting the pituitary gland with the all-seeing eye, so that we'll begin to see more and more. And the reason that doesn't happen is that a lot of people get caught up in phenomena if they have too much opening of the third eye. And then they get interested in that and they forget about developing their Christ consciousness. And they also they start judging what they're seeing and they begin interpreting it miscorrectly. So they've taken away that ability until we can monitor ourselves and really
a lot of this rewiring, and it almost feels like my brain's being rewired.
It is.
It does. It feels like that. And I was told that I would begin to see holograms. You know, a lot of this happens at night, doesn't it?
Yes.
Seems like it happens at night
because we're in a receptive state and you have nothing else to do. I mean, it totally makes sense. That's when we go to school. That's when we go to Ascended Master retreats. That's when we have these alignments made with the etheric bodies and the physical body, meaning that the cells, the spiritual part of us, we have a diamond light body inside of us as well as one outside. And that diamond light body is activating these nadis, or these etheric nerve channels inside of us. And I have actually seen a person, as a matter of fact, my own husband, transfer and become a diamond light being. So I've seen that once, so I know the truth of it. And every particle of your being is light. And everything just vibrates with an intensity, a blinding intensity, and his eyes became two blazing suns. So I said, that's our potential higher diamond light body. So that's a real thing.
Julianne, can we go to the audience and see if there's any questions for you about ascension or anything? Let's see what's going on here. Does anyone have, please don't be shy, a question? Anybody?
Julianne, do you know why this is happening? What is the purpose for man to be on this planet at this time?
Well, the purpose for all incarnate souls at this time is to prepare to go into a massive amount of light. Now, scientists have known about this light, and it's called the photon belt, and they've known about it since for 33 years. And let's just put it this way: they announced it 33 years ago, and they started talking to certain people about it, and then it was kind of kept hush-hush, and now it's coming out again. Photon belt is a period of 2,000 years where we move into intense light, and it has to do with the revolution with the full going around of the whole solar system, and that means all the other planets and stars around our great galactic center, which is Alcyon, the brightest star in the Pleiades. As we revolve around that, everything changes on this planet into light, so that everyone that's incarnated at this time wants to go through this experience, which makes it a tough time because everything that isn't of that light is being spun off. See? So, does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
You know, I can't believe it, but they just held up a sign saying how many minutes, and we don't have a lot of time left.
I know,
Can we
amazing.
go into your experience with the Christ at the Sea of Galilee? And maybe we can show also that picture of Sananda at some point, because it's so wonderful. Yeah, it might go along with. It can go along with this.
Yeah, start talking. I'll set it up. I have to work the cameras and come around.
this is, I don't know if I can do this quickly enough to serve us. And it's a very sacred experience for me, and for a while I didn't even speak of it because I'd tell it and then people would go, well, why doesn't that happen to me? And that's exactly why the Masters don't appear very much, because everybody gets caught up in wanting to have the Masters appear and the phenomena of it. But I went to Egypt and then to Israel in 1986. 3 days of absolute preparation by Mary and the angels. They would stand at the foot of my bed and they were kind of like rewiring me. I had no idea what they were preparing me for, and I'd be crying and laughing, and I would really, really be in an altered state of consciousness all the time. My husband would help me just kind of make it down to have some food. And at one point, he said, we need to change our room. We're looking at the swimming pool instead of the Sea of Galilee. So I didn't want to go through the business of moving, but he said, I'll do it, I'll do it. And he was completely guided to move us over the Sea of Galilee. So on the third night, probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours before dawn, the ceiling of the hotel room went off. We're in Tiberias now, in the Sea of Galilee. And I saw 3 light ships just go right over, and it started pulling my body right out, and I yelled to my husband, they're here, not even knowing what that meant, really. So at that point I said, what do you want me to do? And I knew this was good. I knew this was not any kind of negative alien force. So they said, wrap yourself in a blanket and go to the deck. So I went to the deck, and I started vibrating so hard that I didn't think I could stand the energy without either passing out or going to sleep. It's a funny thing, because you're so excited, but I actually just started losing consciousness. Then this great, huge Merkaba, which is a vehicle of living light. It's not a spacecraft, it's just a light field. I felt it pulsing above me, and big crosses of light came down the Sea of Galilee, and then this golden white body projected onto the Sea of Galilee. And then we began communicating, this being and I, for about 2 hours. To tell me who he was, he took this light body and he would go over to Capernaum, which I could see, or up to Mount Beatitudes, which I could see, and there'd be an explosion. Where his body had been as Jesus the Christ, there would be an explosion. So somehow, when his light body would regroup with where he'd been, it created this phenomena. So that was his introduction to me. Then he showed me various things that could take place in the planet, including at that time even a very drastic war in the Middle East. He showed me all these things so that I would understand how important it is that we shift our consciousness, and said the same thing that he told me in the 1960s. Every single prophecy that we hear now, every prophecy can be changed by consciousness, unless there has to be some sort of very definite rearrangement of the earth, a little bit of shifting on the axis or something like that. But basically, we have no idea how much dominion we have to shift the consciousness. And he would go off of the Sea of Galilee, and he would go up to Mount Beatitudes, and there would be little circles of white light. And he said those were the light workers on the planet, although he didn't use a term like that. I'm trying to translate this all. But there would be groups, and then he would take his golden body up, and he'd keep overlighting all these groups. And he'd go back and forth trying to give me this whole thing in holograms as well as in telepathy. And then at a certain point I asked him, I said, would you please come closer? I really I want to see you. He said, if I come too close, you really won't be able to take the energy. So he set this great pink cloud up over me, and I just got consumed in love. And it ended about the time that the sun was rising. He said, I will have to leave when the sun rises. And so that's the way it ended.
Did we show that picture?
Now that picture of the Christ was the Christ appeared to Dr. Steinbeck, an Austrian archaeologist, in 1961 at Chichen Itza, which is a Mayan temple site. He appeared there because the Mayans and the Tibetans were going to meet this very last March 21st to seal an old agreement that would open up all the encodings that are in the pyramids, all the pyramids of the planet. The capstones went back on that day, etherically. And the Christ brought his energy in there, so everything would be aligned with Christ consciousness. So that's 33 years later, this happened. And this is last March. So that's really very, very exciting.
That's incredible.
The fact that he appeared, and if you look at those eyes, you will see a Christ, obviously a Christ conscious being, who is holding a frequency of the fifth dimension. You see the peace and the love and the beauty in those eyes, and those are real eyes, and that's a real photograph. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, we're almost out of time. I mean, I just gave a 30-second sign, and just thanks for coming. And
thank you so much.
Wow, I can't believe how fast
we just got started.
Show the book.
And this is let's just show for a second the book that Julianne's written that has all these, heart initiation, awakening to the challenges of conscious ascension.
And also she has tapes, and get in touch with us. Get in touch with us.
If you like, and good night, and thank you for watching, and it's been an incredible show for me, and I hope it's been an incredible show for you all. And next week we have, the next 2 weeks I know we have incredible shows coming up, so good night.
Bless you.